All right, students. So when we study plays, unlike novels and short stories and novellas, it's important to actually know what's going to happen and understand the whole plot and the characters beforehand so you can really enjoy it as you go and pick up on some of the subtler nuances. So I'll be explaining the plot and the characters of Cyrano de Bergerac by Edmond Rostand. There are a lot of characters in this story, and I'm not even going to be mentioning all of them. Our main character is Cyrano. He's witty, he's smart, he's an excellent poet and swordsman, he's daring, he's brave. Unfortunately, he happens to have a really big nose. He's in love with his cousin, Roxane. She admires him, respects him, but she doesn't feel romantic love towards him. She is in love with a man named Christian, and he also loves her back. Lebray is Cyrano's best friend, so he'll be supporting him throughout the play. Kind of on the bad people scheme of things, we have Comte de Guiche. He is a powerful but somewhat evil man who's also in love with Roxane. However, he's married, so there's not much he can do about that. He has a little sidekick then that he is pushing forward to try to marry Roxane because, well, let's say this man would look the other way. Not good things happening there. Montfleury is a fat man. He really appears only in our first scene, so we'll get to him shortly. Ragueneau is another friend of Cyrano's. He is a baker. His wife Lise is unhappy with his affection for the poets and how much he gives free food away to them. And then Lignier is another friend of Cyrano's as well, who seems to have somewhat of a drinking problem, but is also on the same witty, noble scheme of side of things as Cyrano. Okay, our play opens actually with another play. Montfleury is performing a play. Cyrano has forbid him to ever perform again. He says that he is like fat and ugly and also doesn't do a very good job performing. We find out later that there's another reason that Cyrano also has an issue with Montfleury. But regardless, Montfleury does decide to perform. Cyrano comes, chases him out, threatens to kill him. The people are actually upset because they paid to see this performance. And one of the men challenges Cyrano, calling out the fact that he has a large nose. This man was encouraged to do so by Comte de Guiche, that man we talked about earlier, and he is an aristocrat. So Cyrano accepts the challenge and duels with him, and actually insults him in verse the whole time while dueling him, and then defeats him in the end. This appeases the crowd, along with the fact that Cyrano gave all of them their money back with his life savings, and they're like, oh, that was great entertainment, and that was a lot of fun. Roxane, his cousin, witnessed the whole thing, was a little worried for him, and after the performance, the duenna, so the woman who's kind of in charge of Roxane, comes and tells Cyrano that Roxane would like to meet with him and that she saw the whole performance. He's getting excited, thinking maybe she loves me too. This is a step forward. Meanwhile, he finds out from a pickpocket that his friend Lignier is going to be a dead man because he created verses that insulted a high noble aristocrat, and they're sending 100 men to kill him. Empowered by what he found out about Roxane, Cyrano's like, I can take those 100 men, and he goes out single-handedly and defeats them all. The next day, he's meeting with Roxane, and he's prepared to tell her that he loves her. He's about to do so when she confesses what she came to say, which is that she's in love with Christian, a new member of the cadets. This is in Ragueneau's shop, again with his angry wife Lise. Cyrano's heartbroken that that's what he thought she was going to say isn't what she actually said, and all these men storm in, supporting him and excited about what he did, how he killed those 100 soldiers, and he doesn't even care. Christian enters with them. So this is the man that's in love with Roxane, and Roxane's in love with him, and yet they've never actually spoken. He's a new member of the little army troop of the cadets, and he is being undermined by the other soldiers because he's not from the area. So to prove himself, he makes fun of Cyrano's nose, something that's a huge no-no because you will be killed. And so Cyrano's furious, of course, because he's making fun of his nose, but then finds out his name. He's like, oh, this is Christian, the woman, or the man that my love loves. He sends all the other men out of the shop and that's it, he's going to kill him. And then he tells Christian who he is. He says, I'm her brother, and he's like, well, close relative, and agrees to help Christian woo Roxane. So Cyrano is actually happy about this as well because he'll get to tell Roxane his true feelings, but under the guise of a handsome face. He tells Christian who is kind of dumb-witted and not very good with his words, that by using Cyrano's words, Cyrano will just get to be practicing, being poetic, that all poets love to practice their words, and that it's just to help Christiane win Roxane. So it's a win-win for both of them. So that goes on for some while. Christiane is passing along the notes and words to Roxane that Cyrano has fed him. Roxane loves them. She tells Cyrano, "Oh my goodness, this man is so brilliant, he's so poetic and so romantic, he's even better than you are." Cyrano loves hearing this because it's his own words. It doesn't bother him that she's giving the credit to somebody else. But then eventually Christiane's like, "It's enough. She loves me for who I am and I can do this myself." Cyrano's like, "That's a horrible idea." And sure enough, it is a horrible idea. Christiane tries talking to Roxane. He totally biffs it. She's furious that he's not so eloquent anymore. And Cyrano's like, "I told you this was a dumb idea." So Cyrano tries to save him. Roxane's fled away to her balcony. Cyrano says, "Okay, I'll hide under this tree. I'll feed you the words again. Say them line by line to her." And he does that for a while until it's just too sporadic and too haltingly. And so he takes over, disguises his voice, and under the cover of night, he himself talks to Roxane, pretending to be Christiane. It ends with him allowing Christiane to get a kiss from Roxane, which back in that day was a big thing. Now, meanwhile, Comte de Guiche is approaching, and he plans to have a secret rendezvous with Roxane. He has dirty thoughts about this. Roxane, much more clever than she appears, has actually arranged for her and Christiane to get married that night. Yes, things move very quickly. But she knows that Comte de Guiche is on his way, which may be one of the reasons that she tries to rush into this, knowing that if she's married, she's untouchable. But until she is, he's going to continue to try to either get her to marry someone else who's under his thumb, or just have illicit relationships with her outside of marriage. So, as she's hustling to marry Christiane, she asks Cyrano to stall him. Cyrano does so, allowing them the time they need to get married. When de Guiche has found out what's happened, he's very upset. And as kind of colonel of their cadet group, he decides to send everyone to war, Christiane included. So basically on her wedding night, he leaves, and she's most likely going to become a widow. Our next scene is on the battlefield. All the men are surrounded by the Spaniards, and they're starving. They've been blockaded out with no food or access to anything. Cyrano, unbeknownst to Christiane, has actually been sneaking across the borders every day, sending letters to Roxane in Cyrano's name. He did not know that they were happening that frequently. Roxane then shows up suddenly with food and beverages and support for everyone. And she says, "I just couldn't stay away, Christiane. You sent me so many beautiful letters. I couldn't bear it." And he starts to piece this together, along with a few other factors, that Cyrano's actually in love with Roxane. There's no way he would do this purely for the poetic enjoyment, but it must be sincere. He gives Cyrano his blessing and actually begs him to tell Roxane the truth. He says, "It's been long enough. We'll find out for sure if she loves you, if she really only loves me for the words, or if she loves me for my looks and who I am." So he wants to know for sure, too, who she actually loves, and tells Cyrano to tell her the truth. Cyrano's in the process of doing so, just about to relay the truth, when a gunshot goes off and Christiane is killed. Cyrano then feels that it's improper to confess that, given that Christiane just died. So, 15 years later, Roxane is living at a convent. De Guiche comes by to visit and actually has seemed to have mended fences with them pretty well. He did stay back to fight when they were attacked by the Spanish, and he admits that he envies Cyrano for standing up to his principles regardless of what the outcome may be. Lebray comes to tell Roxane, remember this is Cyrano's best friend, that Cyrano's not doing very well. Despite his bravery and his wit, he's starving and poor and nearly homeless because he won't allow anyone to hire him. He doesn't work for the aristocrats, he'd rather work for himself. And actually on the other end of things, he's offending a lot of people and he's in mortal danger because all these high and wealthy people want him dead for what he's saying about them. Speak of the devil, Ragueneau rushes in to tell Lebray that Cyrano has been gravely injured, that he was ambushed, not by men with swords, but by some lackey pushing a log out of a window, and that he's on his deathbed. They said if he leaves his house, he'll likely die. So they rush back to try to see him. Roxane didn't hear any of that. She doesn't know that. Now, every day, or every week for the last 15 years, Cyrano has visited Roxane. And he does so again. Now, she's like busy knitting and doesn't know that he's there. So she doesn't see his injury, doesn't realize the state that he's in. That last letter that he wrote to Roxane under Christiane has Christiane's blood on it. He carried it on him and then was shot. So she has that letter and she carries it around her neck. He asks if he could finally read it. She says, now of all times, but she lets him. He starts reading it out loud and continues to do so even though the sun has set and it's dark out. This demonstrates to her, along with the way he reads it and his voice and poise, that he was the one writing all of the letters. And she realizes it was him that she loved all along. She also then realizes he's about to die. So, as he's dying in her arms, he says that he doesn't want her to mourn any less for Christiane, but rather to maybe shed a few tears for him as well. She comments that she has only ever loved one man, but must lose him twice. And that's the end of the play.